Hello and welcome into the Original Father-Son Voiceover Podcast Studio. That's my dad, Todd. I'm Hudson, and this is Todd's Tips. Did that in a real announcer style voiceover.
And this
is the original father. Yeah. So this video is where Todd gives tips that he gives me about voiceover and the business that he has ran for 13 years, 14 years almost in August.
Almost,
14 years in August. Very successfully, 8 years in a row of 6 figures or higher. So that's $100,000 or higher for people who don't know. And you've done it with direct email marketing, you've done it on platforms, Fiverr, you've done it on Voice123, voices.com. Anyway, you've been around the business for long enough, and you've been gracious enough to help me out. And these are some of the things that you give me to use. And so we think if you're giving me tips and you're giving the same tips to those people, you wouldn't be lying to them. So anyway,
trying to be your voiceover dad.
Yeah,
just trying to be your voiceover dad. Everybody needs, some encouragement and some empathy and maybe a little bit of a, come on, let's go.
You gave us some empathy. You gave us some empathy last week.
Yeah,
that was nice.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Maybe not so much this week. But
yeah.
Back to the same old grumpy dad.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. So we're doing Todd's Tips. That's the name of this video and a bunch of videos. But for months now, we've been doing something called Todd's Do's and Don'ts underneath the umbrella of Todd's Tips. And so we're going to have another do today. But first, as we always do, I always provide these caveats on our screen so that you can just take a step back, don't feel pressure, just think, just evaluate, apply as best as you can. I think there's always something to apply, to think about, to challenge you. But maybe there are some things you have to take into account, like, hey, I'm just getting started. You're in your almost 14th year. That makes sense. Hey, I'm 22 years old and you're 63 years old. Hey, you're, live here and I live here. So all of those things I understand. They have a bearing on who you are, what you're doing, and things like that. But it shouldn't have so much of a bearing on just listening and applying some of these things. So that's what I want you to do. So here's my do for today. I do work on my VO craft. I do work on my VO craft, but not with a coach. I do work on my VO craft, but not with a coach. I have a 7-segment VO pyramid of success that I use to run my VO business life. 7-segment, as it builds its way up, pyramid of success. Want to know where the actual craft of being a VO actor fits in my mind?
Last.
At the very top. Yep. In other words, the craft of being a VO talent in a priority list is last in my mind. Now, don't get me wrong. Honing your craft as a VO artist is critical. And I don't mean that you leave it until the last thing you do, the last thing you work on. But in a logical sense, in a building block sense, it follows the 6 other building blocks of the pyramid. For me, that's how I built my business. Let me say 2 things, and I could talk a lot about the pyramid, and someday I'll unveil all of the blocks of it. But I have never, ever used a single VO coach for the craft end of my business. In fact, I've really only hired I paid for one one-on-one coaching session, and that was giving me a gig review of my Fiverr account. Second, I am an observer applier learner. I don't know if that's a technical thing. I've heard people are different types of learners. For me, I call it a observer applier learner. I'm very good at hearing how to do something or watching someone do something and then applying it to my business. Now, maybe you aren't the same and you need a coach. Fine. Don't get upset that I don't use coaches, at least to this point in my career. Although I do wish people wouldn't so quickly rush in to getting coaching. That's what I do wish they would do, is just slow down, think, and vet coaches. For me, I've worked on my craft of voiceover by doing voiceover work. I earn while I learn, by hearing other VO talent, by getting feedback on scripts or on live directed sessions. Now, this is heresy in today's VO coaching saturated world, but that's how I do it. And that's how I think about it. I think about my craft in a logical sense, being the last of 7 steps, if you will, in a logical sense of the priority for my voiceover business. And it served me well for myself. Maybe you're somewhat different. But again, just as I said at the beginning, take some time to think about these things and just evaluate them. If you think I'm wrong, it's fine. If you're successful doing things a different way, good on you. I know there's lots of ways to skin the old VO business cat. But for me, that's how I've done it. And I just want people who maybe are more like me, or at least willing to think about these things, not to get in a rut, because the industry has a rut that everybody kind of runs in. Yeah, it's a worn path that's comfortable and you get kudos for it. And if you get off of it, you get told, get back on it. Or you're not going to be invited to VO conferences. You're not going to speak at VO conferences. You're not going to be on the popular kids, the popular voiceover, their podcasts. You're not going to be interviewed by the big ones, and you're going to be patronized and looked down on if you do it a certain way. And so just understand that. And I just want people to know that there is another option.
Sounds good. Thank you for that. That is Todd's Tips. We have all of our videos and past Todd's Tips in their own playlist. You can check those out on our channel. We also have numbers that we do. John will be here on the couch. Dad and I will talk about our numbers and stuff that happened this week. And those have their own playlist as well. So you can check those out, all of them, ever since, well, you've been doing them for a while. And I've my whole career been doing, well, no, 1 year I didn't do it.
Yeah,
but
right.
My first year I didn't do it because we didn't have a podcast. So if you have any questions about these videos, stuff like that, feel free to ask. You can ask in the comments. You can also email me at hudsonbarsness@yahoo.com. That'll be below here. And we will see you Wednesday, if you want, for the 68th episode of the original Father-Son Voiceover podcast. It's a little bit local, so you can check it out if you want. You don't have to. So we'll see you later, and thanks for watching. Are you dying to see more content like that? Check out the video over here or subscribe over here. Thanks.